I can't do this one sitting down. I need to do a little preamble to this because I want to honour the man and the woman sitting in the front row. This poem's called Sweat, Dirt and Destiny. In 1998, I was asked to write a history of the C.O.C. And I love the C.O.C. I've got a lot of friends there. That's who I was ordained through, and, you know, I have no problems with it. And I've never written a poem on request before. That's not how it works with me. God gives me a seed and I work with it, but I don't. A lot of people said, "Oh, you know, Bluey's going away, retiring this year. Can you write a poem for the party?" Answer's no, because that's not the gift that God has given me. And so I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll go to the Lord." And I went that night and I said, I called my daughter, and they said, she said, "You've got a fax," because Andrew said he's going to send me a fax. I said, "Okay." She said, "We need a new fax roll." I said, "I just put a new fax roll in." She said, "It's 40 pages. And I read the 40 pages, and I laughed and I cried. I went through a whole emotional gamut, you know. And I said, "Lord, I know, and you know, I don't write poetry. See, I listen, and I write what I hear." And so I never even tried to write it. And that was in June, I think, of 98, thereabouts. And then in September, I was down in Traralgon in Victoria. And 4 o'clock in the morning, the Lord woke me up. And I just started to write as he started to speak. And then it stopped. It was like turn the tap off. And then it was in October. I tried to work on it, tried to extend it, didn't work, so I gave up. And I said, okay. So in October, I'm on my way out to Cloncurry. I was selling logging trailers at the time, and they wanted to get into road train dollies. And so I was on the way out to Cloncurry to see a bloke from McIver's. And I said to the Lord, when I turned off at Rocky, I said, "If this is a gift that you've put in my life, we've got half a poem. Rehearsals is Friday, and I don't want to embarrass either of us, especially me. And so I really would like you to finish this poem." Well, I had it finished by the time I got to Longreach. I actually wrote it down on paper a month after the conference. But the night that I did it at the conference, 3 of the old boy pastors come up individually. They said, "Did you write that about Clark Taylor?" I said, "I've never met Clark Taylor. Never heard the man's voice." They said, "You didn't?" I said, "No." They said, "The only missing was his name." I said, "Really?" Okay. You see, I thought I was writing one thing, God was writing something else. And I tried to put my interpretation on it. God already had an interpretation on it. Let me just say it as an honour to you guys. Let me share it tonight. And I sat over there next to my wife, and I just felt a movement just in my spirit. And I said, "Lord, if you think..." I want to say to you tonight, I don't claim to be a prophet. But tonight, you can take this poem as prophecy. When you get to the end of it, you'll know why. Sorry, babe, I didn't mean to embarrass you. In fact, I was sitting there tonight, and I'm thinking, my T-shirt under here, the black T-shirt, is actually prophetic, goes with this poem. Because on the back of it, it says, "You're going to cowboy up, or you're just going to lay there and bleed." The little fella was barely walking. The first time his father picked him up and put him in a saddle. His little legs were nowhere near the stirrups, and he could barely hold a rein. But with his father's hand supporting. and a horse as quiet as a mouse. Every day, him and his dad would go riding from the stockyard to the house. But like the horse, the boy was fed and watered. It wasn't all that long till his feet were in the stirrups and his arms had grown strong. And in time, he didn't need his father's help for what used to be a climb from the ground up to the saddle. He learned to love the creaking as the leather took his weight, and he learned to hate the confines of the stockyard and the gate. But he listened to his father. Sometimes he didn't need to listen hard to hear. Get up! You're not dead yet. You get back in the saddle and learn from mistakes. Cuts and bruises and a bum that aches. Well, the old man knew. Just par for the course when you throw a bridle on a better horse. But there was a day came, or a few years on. The young bloke came off and we thought he was gone. Breaking some brumbies and a bad-tempered mongrel kicked up and threw him from here to there. First time ever, the old man got a scare. And he charged in to pick the boy from the dirt. Get the flying dock! This time he knew his son was hurt. And he rolled the boy over. And his father stood still as his son pushed him aside and got to his feet with a surge of will. With a look in his eye, you could see through the blood. What once was a twinkle was now a flame that consumed like a flood. And he staggered back, pulled the bridle around, closed his fist and brought one from the ground. And the horse took it low and breathed in with a fright, and he grabbed the girth strap and ripped another notch tight. He threw the rein over, looked that horse in the eye. He said, one of us is going to quit, or one of us is going to die. And he climbed back in the saddle. But before the spurs bit and he tightened the rein, he thanked God for his father, who had loved him enough to let him grow through the pain. Some said it was shock, some said it was pride, and they were both wrong. And that night round the fire, when the cattle were penned, the young bloke sat down, a man among men. And from a swag bed of canvas between heaven and earth, his father recalled the night of his birth. The power of the memory was the reason he cried. For he'd held him to heaven and said, what do I do? And the Spirit of God spoke and said, teach him to ride. For destiny's his to confront the rogue bull. But the fire and the fight that I'll put in his soul, when the blueing is over, he'll have 12 baskets full. And the pain that he thought would declare him a failure is a strength that I'll use to muster Australia. For the rein and a saddle and a braided stock whip are just the tools that I'll use to train and equip. For when he's mustered the Southland, taught others to ride, and proven his worth, I'll take him and his stockmen, and I'll muster the earth.